This is the real story behind the Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier feud.
I wish they would let me next door so I can spit in your fucking face.
You know I would absolutely kill you if you ever did something like that,
You
right?
could never kill me.
Oh, I bet you I could.
Then you should try, John.
There is nothing you can do to stop me from coming at you round after round with the most malicious techniques I know. You will lose this fight, Daniel Cormier. I want you to believe it. Every ounce of training you put in leading up to this fight will be a waste of your life.
The UFC has seen its fair share of legendary rivalries, but none have been as dark, deeply personal, and long-lasting as the one between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier. But how did it all begin, and how did it spiral into one of the most heated feuds in MMA history?
That is hilarious. Oh, funny games, guys. That's not really going up there, but that would be funny.
Jon Jones made his UFC debut in 2008 on the back of 6 straight wins, all by finish, which made him a hot prospect right from the start. And not only that, it took Jones just 6 months from his debut as a professional MMA fighter to debut in the UFC, something no one has ever done so quickly. So in just a few months of professional fighting, the New York native entered the UFC and kept the hype alive, winning against 6 out of his first 7 UFC opponents, with the exception of Matt Hamill, who won by disqualification due to illegal 12-6 elbows. The loss hits Jones hard, but at the same time, it was a relief, as he no longer had the pressure of staying undefeated hanging over him.
I know I had a good performance. I did something that may have been illegal, and I had to pay the price for it. I don't have an O on my record anymore. But I feel great. I get to go home and see my girls, and now I have no pressure of trying to stay undefeated,
And it was around that time where Jones crossed paths with 2-time Olympian and undefeated heavyweight prospect Daniel Cormier, who hadn't yet debuted in the UFC, but people started talking about him coming to the UFC and being the next big thing for the sport. Jones, however, supposedly gave him no recognition, and that pissed DC off.
He just said a couple things like, you look like you can wrestle. Go get cauliflower on the other side. Maybe you can get a takedown against me. And my whole thing was it just came off so off-putting because he didn't know who I was.
Regardless, Jones's 6 UFC wins were more than enough to land him a shot at champion Shogun Rua on short notice, and a young Bones wasn't worried in the slightest.
Do you ever feel overwhelmed by how fast you climbed, or the level of competition that you find yourself facing right now?
No, I don't feel overwhelmed. I'm a hard worker, and I've dedicated my life to this sport completely. So, when you work that hard and you do the right things, you have no reason to doubt yourself. So I feel as if I'm right where I deserve to be.
Jones went out there and steamrolled Shogun Rua to win the belt, becoming the youngest UFC champion in history at just 23 years old, before defending it 5 times against some of the greatest fighters of their eras. By then, everyone, including Jones, knew that he was destined for greatness.
For me, I have to breathe, eat, and sleep this. So aspiring to be the greatest is something I owe to myself, and that's what I want to be, is the greatest. And I believe that's what will happen eventually.
So anyway, it was at this time when a hyped prospect in Daniel Cormier had now made his successful UFC debut, and at the same time, Jon Jones, for the first time in his career, was made to look human when he next defended his belt against Alexander Gustafsson at UFC 165. Now, although Jones won the fight by unanimous decision, Gustafsson pushed him to his absolute limits and left Jones bruised and battered, with a lot of the MMA community even arguing that Gustafsson should have come out on top. Michael Bisping even agreed that the result was bullshit. Regardless, Jones ensured to silence all doubters in his next defense against Glover Teixeira at UFC 172, to which he won by unanimous decision. Daniel Cormier had also continued his UFC winning spree, and knowing that he was close to a title shot giving his 13-0 record, the Jones matchup was becoming more of a reality by the day.
And by the way, Daniel Cormier told me on Monday he thinks Glover is going to beat you.
Who cares? Who cares what that guy thinks?
All right, well, good to see you. Congratulations.
You are such an instigator.
What are you talking about? I'm just telling you.
Oh, no. Ariel.
And the Jones-Cormier matchup would come sooner than expected, because Jones was set to rematch Alexander Gustafsson at UFC 178, but when the Swede pulled out with an injury, the UFC handed DC his first shot at gold. Cormier was 4-0 in the UFC at that time, and being an Olympic-level wrestler, he felt like he would present Jones with problems in the wrestling department that no other fighters were able to give him thus far.
Styles make fights, man. I mean, styles make fights, and him and I match up well with him. We haven't really seen him on his back for an extended period of time, but if I get on top of him, I think I can hold him down and get some offense off.
The moment the two rivals ran into each other for a pre-fight face-off, it was chaos. Cormier faced disciplinary action for making the first move and starting the brawl, which he claimed was a result of Jones's provocation.
It's a game of inches, and no one wants to give an inch. So he kind of put his head forward onto me, which to me is that's aggressive. I came to really take a picture. We can do that from a distance. We can do that from close. We don't have to touch each other. And when he did, that's when I pushed him away from me.
Anyway, this brawl set the stage for their what would soon become endless rivalry, and the pre-fight interviews were just as venomous, with Cormier repeatedly calling Jones out for allegedly being a terrible human.
Hey, are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. You are just the fakest person. I actually admire that you can actually be this fake. And like when the TV comes on, how you can just change. It's like you're a chameleon.
Hey, listen,
it's
I'm
awesome.
I'm a professional.
It is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
The fact that you're a p*** hasn't changed.
You're the fucking scum of the earth. You are a terrible human being, but you can sure turn it on, huh?
Thank you.
I wish they would let me next door so I can spit in your face.
You know I would absolutely kill you if you ever did something like that,
You
right?
could never kill me.
Oh, I bet you I could.
Then you should try, John.
With each media appearance, it became apparent that their hatred for each other was real and ugly.
I want to put so much pressure on you and beat you and dominate you so much that it'll break your spirit and your will, so I'm going to break bones.
It's gonna be intimate.
And passionate.
And passionate. I'm gonna make him my wife.
Unfortunately, Jones pulled out of the event due to an injury, so their fight was rebooked just a few months later for UFC 182. And surprisingly, with time for things to settle, the two actually showed some respect for each other this time round.
What I respect about John Jones is his ability to control fights, his ability to handle pressure, his ability to actually do what he's done at such a young age. That will most times break a younger human being. He's handled it to this point.
When the cage door shut, Jones controlled most of the fight, even taking down the Olympian and outworking him in the clinch and against the cage to secure a dominant unanimous decision win. Despite being cut by the loss, Cormier admitted that he wasn't done with Jones and that he'd be back for his vengeance.
Do you think there's still some grudges that are being held on to?
Well, those feelings, when they're 100% real, they don't just go away because we fought once. No, John and I still have things to deal with, and I think the only way we're gonna ever do that is if we stand across the cage from each other again.
Jones, on the other hand, was already looking ahead, claiming how 2015 was going to be the year he'd solidify his legacy as the GOAT.
My plan is to become the greatest fighter of all time, and it's so feasible, it's so attainable. All I gotta do is just stay focused and keep believing just the way I believe, and to keep working. And I do believe 2015 will be the year I solidify it.
Little did Jones know that 2015 was going to be the worst year of his life. Right after beating Cormier, Jones tested positive for cocaine, but he avoided punishments since the test was done out of competition a month before the fight.
John Jones tested positive for cocaine, yet you see other fighters getting in big trouble for testing positive for marijuana. That is the difference between out of competition and in competition. John Jones tested positive for cocaine out of competition. So had John Jones tested positive for a recreational drug after the fight, he would be even in more trouble.
And just to make things worse for Jones, he got involved in a hit and run soon after where he hit a pregnant woman's car before fleeing the scene.
And he was running the red light. I remember seeing him and he kept going. He just hit me on my driver's side.
Jones was booked for a title defense against Anthony Johnson at UFC 187 at the time. However, due to the hit and run situation, he was instead stripped of the belt and suspended for 15 months. And this would soon open the door for DC to shine, where he replaced Jones to face Johnson for the vacant title. Despite the heat between them, Cormier wished Jones and his family the best, stating that one of the best fighters of all time has found himself in trouble again. It sucks. Despite our differences, I truly wish the best for John and his family. DC went on to defeat Anthony Johnson, earning himself the light heavyweight title. He then went on to successfully defend it against Alexander Gustafsson at UFC 192, but he made it clear that the Jones rematch was what he really cared about.
I need that guy. I need that guy to get back in here and fight me again. For my journey to be complete, and for me to be complete as I finish this sport, I need him. And honestly, I wish him all the best so that he can actually get back and I can stop playing around with these guys and get back to business.
So after serving his 15-month suspension, Jones returned and won the interim belt against Ovince St. Preux at UFC 187, and the rematch between Jones and Cormier was set for UFC 200. But this time, Cormier was the belt holder, and Jones was both the challenger and also a bum, according to DC.
So DC says that he gets under your skin by calling you a bum.
Right.
Does that affect you in any way?
No, it doesn't affect me at all. DC calling me a bum is like, I don't see how I'm a bum. I have more titles than he does. I've beat him. I just don't see how he calls me a bum. I've been doing this a lot longer than he has at an extremely high level. I've always fought for the UFC. I never fought for any lesser leagues or organizations. I just don't see how I'm a bum, but whatever.
Just a week before the fight, however, Jones would fail yet another drug test, this time for PEDs, meaning that the fight had to be scrapped.
Jones tested positive.
Man, come on. Come on.
I know, bro. Fuck, I'm so sorry.
Come on.
Jones came forward with an apology, claiming he had no idea how the banned substances, including 2 estrogen blockers, clomiphene and letrozole, ended up in his system.
I would never take anything that I wouldn't take anything that would enhance my game. I wouldn't cheat. That's just not who I am.
Jones ended out serving another year-long suspension, making his return at UFC 214. Fortunately for both, Cormier was still the champ, and Jones was the man determined to reclaim what he always believed was rightfully his. Heading into the fight, the animosity between the two legends was at an all-time high, with Cormier saying that although he doesn't hate Jones, they'd never be friends.
Is the dislike as much as it's ever been? Yes, but hatred's a very, very strong word.
Okay, so do you one day seeing a friendship of sorts?
No.
Jones said that he didn't hate Cormier either, but it was time for him to take back what's rightfully his.
Why would I hate you, Daniel? I beat you already. Does that make sense? Why would I hate you? I beat you already. What do I have to? I have nothing to prove to you. You just so happen to be the person who's holding on to my championship. Daddy's home to pick it up.
The pre-fight press conference was filled with venom, with both men doing their best to gain the psychological edge.
Is this guy really gonna go to the fight? Is this guy gonna mess this up again by doing steroids or snorting cocaine or sandblasting prostitutes? What's this guy gonna do? What's this guy gonna do to mess this up this time?
Prostitutes?
I beat you after a weekend of cocaine. Daniel Cormier has shown me absolutely nothing since our last fight. He has not progressed whatsoever. Anthony Johnson gave him that win.
Hey, so wait.
Anthony
If
Johnson
I haven't
gave
shown him
him
anything, at least I've been around to show something.
That
Where the
is
fuck has he been?
That is true.
Where's this guy been?
That is true.
Where the fuck has he been?
That is true.
Get out of here judging someone from the sidelines. Go back and sit on the couch in Albuquerque.
That is true.
The fight was expected to play out like their first, going the full 5 rounds, with Cormier expected to perform better as the more active fighter. But Jones was untouchable that night. He picked Cormier apart for 2 rounds, then stopped him in the 3rd with a head kick, followed by ground and pound, shocking the world once again. After the fight, Cormier bowed down to the new king.
I don't know, man. I guess if you win both fights, there is no rivalry, so I don't know.
After admitting that the rivalry was over, Jones too was humble in his success.
I've always felt like he's a pretty classy guy. Guy to be respected. Stand-up champion, model champion. But unfortunately, you know, I came into this game at a young age with big ideas. And despite how good of a person he is, there's no mercy in combat.
However, to everyone's surprise, a few weeks later, Jones left the MMA world in disbelief once again after being flagged for a potential doping violation by USADA following a sample collected after weigh-ins. The win was shortly after turned to a no contest, and Jones was once again suspended. And this was about to become a blessing in disguise for Cormier, because Cormier was reinstated as the light heavyweight champ once again, and he defended his belt once against Volkan Oezdemir before moving up to heavyweight, where he then also won the belt, becoming a 2-division UFC champion in the process, a milestone that very few fighters have ever done before. Cormier then vacated his light heavyweight title and retired from the sport entirely just 2 years later after back-to-back losses to Stipe Miocic at heavyweight. Now at this point, Cormier had one thing up on Jones. He had been a UFC 2-division champion and Jones had not. But this wasn't to last, because after DC retired from the UFC, Jones, who had won back the light heavyweight belt since, also vacated his light heavyweight belt following 3 super tough title defenses for a move up to heavyweight, to which he challenged Cyril Gane for the vacant belt at UFC 285. And as expected, Jones won the fight with ease, submitting Gane in just 2 minutes, earning himself the 2-division champion status and robbing DC of the one milestone he had up on Jones. And to this day, Jon Jones still reigns supreme as both the heavyweight champion and, in most of the public's eye, the GOAT of the sport. 7 years have passed since Cormier and Jones last fought, and their rivalry still lives on, although it's not as fiery as it once used to be.
That is hilarious. Oh, funny games, guys. That's not really going up there, but that would be funny.
If you enjoyed the video, be sure to check out some times where cocky UFC fighters got destroyed and humbled by their opponents.